This is Gemara Avodah Zarah Daf Nun Hey, and we're holding on. Nun Hey Amid Aleph. We are 6 lines down. The first one line is Mi'al Pnei Adama. In the middle of a fascinating discussions, different philosophers in Rome and the Zakanim. And now we pick it up. Shola Agrippas Sar Savas Rav Gamliel. Agrippas, the general, asked Rav Gamliel the following: Kisibis Aschem. Says in your Torah, Kishem lekechem ish achlahu kelkana kulo kelkana. Shem, your God, He is a consuming fire, a jealous God. Klumit kanem. Ella chacham b'chacham. Is a wise man jealous only of a wise man? A gibor, a strong man, is jealous of the gibor, v'ashir be'ashir, and a wealthy man of a wealthy man. So the question is, the fact that Hashem is quote-unquote kelkane, Hashem is jealous, shows that the idols must have some godliness to them. Because if they don't have godliness, why is God quote-unquote jealous? Amar lo, he responds to Gamliel, a person that marries an additional wife, more chashuv than his current wife. Ein mitkana ba pechusa. Ein mitkana ba. The first wife is not jealous. Why? Because the second wife is more chashuv. Pechusa mimeno. But if he marries someone lower, then mitkana ba. One more time. If he marries someone more chashuv, he's not jealous. He marries someone lower than his wife, then indeed she is jealous. Similarly, says Hashem, you want to know that you worship something that would be equal to me, greater than me, which obviously is not shaykh, but you go and you worship an idol, something so low, that's where the jealousy comes from. Amr le Zunin, the Rabbi Akiva, continues the Gemara. Zunin says to Rabbi Akiva, Zunin is a yid, libi, v'libech yada. My heart and your heart knows that what is chav and last big mashasha, that idols have nothing. V'akachazinon, kavri, ta'azli, ki mit ba'ri. But we see people who enter that they're broken. V'asu ki mitzmadi, and they leave healed. My time, this is a kasha that in one way or another we all have. We might not have it about mamish avodah zarah, but we see things that seemingly work, that seemingly are counter to what we know as Yiddishkeit. Amar lo yemshcha mashal ma davar doime l'adam ne'eman shaya be'ir v'chol b'nei iroi ha'imafkidin etzloi. There was an honest person lives in a city, and all the people live in his city would be mafkidim etzloi shloi be'edim. They would trust him. He's adam ne'eman. They wouldn't have eidim. Oba adam echad, one person comes v'gloi be'edim, and he gives him a pikadim, but he requires Eidim. Pam echad. So what happens? One time, one time he goes and he gives it out Eidim. Amra lai ishtai. So what happens is, his wife says, let us go, and we'll deny it. This guy always requires Eidim. Now he didn't. A perfect opportunity. Amar Allah, he says to because he acted like a fool always. Anu nevenes amuna seino. We should lose our trust. What's going on? Our integrity. Afkan responds Rabbi Akiva. Avkach yisurim b'shah shemishagrin aisai. So to over here, when Hashem sends Yishurim Allah, the Mashvin He makes an oath. Hashem decides the day that he'll be healed. He's going to get sick in such a day, and he'll get better at such a day. Through this person, through this medicine. When the time comes, so what happens? The time the person feels he's getting a little bit better, so this person goes and he goes to Avodah Zarah. And what happens? Amri Yisurim. So what happens is, in the first white line, the Yisurim turn to Kadosh Baruch Hu and they say, we shouldn't leave, and we should stay with this person. Mrim, and then they say, so Hashem says, because this person does, Shalaik Aigan who never Shvua Seinu, we shall lose our Shvua. We said that this is going to be what he gets, and that's it. What is the meaning of the pasuk? The chalayim ra'im and amanim, harsh and faithful illnesses. Excuse me. Ra'im bishluchu seinu, the harsh in their mission, but v'na'amanim b'shvua seinu. So we see that just because something seems that it works doesn't mean that it works, because Hashem is not going to change everything to show just that it doesn't work. Amnei Rava bar Rav Yitzchak le Rav Yehuda. Rava bar Rav Yitzchak says to Rav Yehuda, but there is a certain base of Avodah Zarah that when the world needs rain, the idol appears to them in a dream. Sacrifice someone to me, shechtim, and I'll bring rain. Shachtu la gavri, they shecht the person. Vasi mitzvah, and rain comes. So we see, how do we contend with the fact that the Avodah Zarah seemingly has powers? Amar le, Rav Yehuda responds, Hash ta'yav. Had the person died, Lamar l'cha milsa damarav, I would never have told you the thing. Had I died, I would never have told you that which Rav said. What is the meaning of the pasuk? Says the pasuk, what is the meaning that which Hashem your God is apportioned chalak oisam l'chol ha'amim, to all the people under the heavens. Melamed shechlikan bidvarim, that Hashem smoothed the way with words, with these deceptive dreams. Why? Kidei litarda min ha'olam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did this davka to drive them from the world. That what? If one wants to go down the wrong path, Hashem allows him to let him continue until a point of destruction. What is the meaning of the pasuk? What is the meaning of the pasuk? The cynics will act cynically. The humble will get favor. If someone wants to be mitame, incredible cloud. If someone is looking to get healed for the wrong areas, if someone is looking for the Avodah Zarah to have power, guess what? Hashem says, you know what? Do what you need. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitayin oisai. Says the Gemara on the bottom of Nun Hey Amud Aleph. Mishnah, Loichin gas be'uta mina akum. You're allowed to buy a wine press from Goyim. Even though the guy takes the crushed grapes with his hands and puts it on their mount. Now, it's an incredibly important halacha. That it's only ayin esech if the wine is touched. When it's zav, when it's yerid labar. If the guy goes and he's mitabel and he touches it, prior to that it's not a problem. But yarid labar, mashmabar asar v'hashar mutter. And of course, what precise stage this is in halacha is an incredibly shver shayla with huge nafkaminas. All wineries. At what point could Goyim be involved? At what point not? Continues the Mishnah on the last line. You could go and you could crush the grapes together with a guy in the wine press. As we turn over to Nun Hey Amud Beis, the Mishnah concludes. Yes, you could be dairich. Yes, you could trod. You could squish and crush the grapes together with the guy. However, avoloi ba'itrin, but you cannot harvest the grapes imai with him. Why? Rashi says, "Vishnoisim begas tomei'ah v'goyrim tomahu shenisinasan legas l'shem jericha." Because when you place them into the press, into the vat, for the sake of crushing them, that makes them tamei, and therefore that is not allowed. Continues the Mishnah. Yisrael shu'aisa b'tama. On that vein, if a yid who creates wine b'tama, you cannot help him out. Again, the same reason you can't cause tama. However, you could transport barrels to the wine press with him, and you could take it with him from the gas. And Rashi says this means empty barrels you could bring with him and fill ones as well. Why? Because once it is tamei, then it is mutter inside the tamei dika barrels. Concludes the Mishnah. On a similar vein of tama, a baker that bakes bread in a state of tama, loy lashin, you should not knead, loy archen, you should not braid imai. However, you could bring it to the baker. Again, the nachtam here is not the baker, but the kneader creating the dough. So it says the Gemara, going back in the first in the Mishnah, which is at what point precisely the wine is considered wine and thereby creates the ayin nesach issues. Amar Ravuna teaches Ravuna, Yayin, kivan shehischel lahamshich. When it's drawn, I say yayin nesach. That is the point that is considered yayin nesach. Asks the Gemara Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, gas b'uta minakum. Someone's allowed to buy, loichin, gas b'uta minakum, allowed to buy a wine press that was trodden, that was squished from a guy. Afal pisha notali biyadai, v'nasan l'tapuach. Even though the guy takes the grapes and puts them on the mount. Now the question is, if he's moving the crushed grapes, there's clearly hamshacha, there's clearly wine flowing freely at that point. And the Mishnah clearly says there is not a problem of yayin nesach at that point. Amar Ravuna, says Ravuna, bikas pikuka umaleh. The Mishnah deals with a wine press that is plugged and full. And because it's pikuka maleh, let's say Rashi spill it out. Rashi says, shapaku atzinar al pi abar. So now the wine is not being drawn anymore. Because the wine is not being drawn anymore. And that's the reason why there's no concern. Tashema, ask the Gemara. So what do we see? We see again that it's not yayin nesach, even though it's free, even though it's flowing. Says the Gemara, the same terror, we're talking about a vat that is plugged and filled. Tashema yarid labar, that once the wine goes into the bar, mashav bar aser vashar motor. The same kasha. What do we see? We see that the amshach is not an issue. Amravuna like kasha kam b'mishnah rishayna, kam b'mishnah achrayna. So now comes along Ravuna and introduces that there were two stages in this takana. Let's understand. Titania, we learned in Abraisa, Taisafta, Parishayna originally, Hayaimrim, Hayaimrim, Bidad, which is a pneumatic, Beis Dalid, which we'll see what this means in a moment. Ein Baitzim Imakom, this originally, you're not allowed to harvest grapes with a guy, Big Hasha, also Ligram Tamalachulin, Baritz Yal. Because you're causing tama, and vein darchem in Yisrael sheisa peiros of tama shasas idei oivrei avera. Aval, however, darchem emakom bigas lochashinon darchem emakom begas. But you're allowed to trod together with the guy. So 3 dinim: ein baitzim emakom bigas asligum tama. Number 2, darkim in Israel. And number 3, darkim akom. That's a big dad. The first base is baitrim. Could harvest with the guy, but you cannot doirech, trod, squish with a yid, betama, as well as you're allowed to be doirech with a guy, betama. Says Gemara, whoa. Are we not worried for Ravuna that once there's Amshacha, it's called Yain Nesech? And says the Gemara, that was an akasha. The Mishnah Rishona, we were concerned. But then Chazur Laimar de Beis Dalin, not Badad, but Dabad, which is Ein Darchen, that's the first Dalin in Ma'akom, Begas Misham de Ravuna, Mamish, because of Ravuna. And we turn over to Navav and Aleph, says the Gemara, Vein Bait Shimim Yisrael Sheis Bereitza B'Toma. That's the beat. So Kol Shkein Shein Darkin, Avol Bait Shimim Akom Begas. Why? Shamotel Ligam Tum L'Chulin Sheretz Yisrael. That's the Mishnah Achrayna, that we're not concerned with the causing Tuma of we're not concerned with causing chulin to be tamei in Eretz Yisrael. Pick it up from here, b'siyata dishmaya.